Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the MICROSALT PLC final results investor presentation. Throughout today's recorded meeting, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and they can be submitted at any time just using that Q&A tab on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please, at any time, type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question received during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and will publish those responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I'd like to submit the following poll, and I'm sure the company will be most grateful for your participation. I'd now like to hand over to CEO Rick Guiney. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Again, my name is Rick Guiney. I'm the CEO of MICROSALT, and with me today is Conrad Dabrowski, our CFO, and we're very happy that you're with us. We have developed a patented, protected product and process that creates scalable manufacturing of salt crystals that is approximately 100 times smaller than traditional salt. Due to its micron-sized particles, MICROSALT has improved adhesion to food and dissolves much faster on the tongue, thereby delivering the same sensation of saltiness without the excess sodium. And that brings us to our vision. Our vision, excuse me, technical problems. Here we go. Our vision is to lower excess sodium intake globally and to help reduce cardiovascular disease. And to do that, our mission is to help food companies reduce sodium levels in their products by offering low sodium, full flavor, patented protected salts at scale. And this is a revolutionary new technology. I'm going to ask Mark to start our video, if that's possible.
Over 307 million servings and counting. That's the impact we're making by helping reduce sodium intake one serving at a time. Thanks to our groundbreaking technology, we're helping people live longer, healthier lives without sacrificing the flavor of the foods they love. 2024 was a defining year, showing how strong and united we are, thanks to our leadership team and the guidance of our board. And our mission has gained momentum as a result. In 2025, we're scaling our impact by partnering with some of the world's largest food companies and expanding our reach with new MICROSALT products designed to unlock new sales channels. From cereal bowls in the US to snack bags in Mexico to plant-based meals across Europe and French fries everywhere, our mission has now become global. 2026 is shaping up to be a promising and impactful year. With recurring high-volume orders from commercial partners and the expansion of the MICROSALT-based product line into restaurants, hospitals, and food service, we are well positioned for continued growth. As regulations tighten and consumers become more health conscious, MICROSALT is proving that it's way ahead of the pack, delivering real solutions right now. Because when it comes to health, the future is not something you wait for, it's something we build together. And we're proud to be the #1 ally for a healthier tomorrow.
When we say MICROSALT is different, we mean it's different down to every particle. What makes MICROSALT different, it is micro-sized particles. MICROSALT is proof that big innovations can come in any size, even micro-sized.
MICROSALT is more than just an ingredient. It's part of a larger movement towards better health. Reducing sodium empowers brands to do better. It should all be done with one idea in mind, to help improve people's lives. That is more than just a tagline. That is what MICROSALT stands for.
When we launched MICROSALT, we set out to solve one of the biggest health challenges of our time. Sodium intake was to make an impact on salt reduction with an added mission to preserve the bold flavor that we all love. So we created a groundbreaking process that reduces salt crystals and increases the surface area. The result? Real salt. Same taste, half the sodium. We want to change the way the food industry thinks about salt, and we're helping brands lead with purpose. Together, we can reduce sodium at scale and save lives in the process. That's the kind of impact we're here to make. Thank you for that. I'm going to continue on with our presentation. We are bridging the health gap one grain at a time. MICROSALT is not just an ingredient. We are the enabling technology behind the sodium reduction revolution. As a food tech company, we fill the critical gap between the urgent need to address cardiovascular disease and the market's demand for uncompromised taste. We connect science, technology, and impact. We have patented salt particles, 100% natural, 50% low sodium, delivering the same great flavor as traditional salt. We have recurring revenues from blue chip customers worldwide. This year alone, we have participated in over 307 million servings to consumers already. And we're driving a systematic change in public health through innovation. All right, here's a picture. Here's what we really do. Let's get right down to it. We take any kind of salt, no matter where it comes from, whether it's mine salt or sea salt, and we reduce the crystal size. By reducing the crystal size, we increase the surface area, and that allows the salt to dissolve immediately or almost immediately on your tongue. It gets you the full flavor of what you're looking for without ingesting untasted sodium. It's a simple, patented process that works every time because it still remains salt. There's a little bit of science behind this. I don't want you to think that it's just us making it up. Here on the screen, you see a spider chart. The spider chart details 28 test data points that we tested MICROSALT against our control. Here in the US, the control is Morton Standard Salt. Here on the spider chart, you see Morton is the gold chart on the left, and we are the green line. And as you can see, we mimic the control group almost identically. And those changes that aren't identical are so small that the consumer is never going to know. Now, there 28 test data points is a lot of data. So we know that we're spot on when we come to mimicking the attributes of traditional salt. Not only can we offer you that, but real quickly, we'll offer you a quick look at the dissolution rates. And real simply you can see the control line, which is the gray line, takes almost 75 to 80 seconds to completely dissolve. Whereas on the left side of the chart, you see both MICROSALT Premium and MICROSALT dissolving right around between 0 and 10 seconds. So we are way ahead of traditional salt, and that's the secret. You get the flavor of everything you're ingesting. MICROSALT, we have a couple of different things. We have a base product, and we have what we call MICROSALT Premium. Our base product is designed for use in doughs, in slurries, prepared meals, topical inline applications. We have two different formulas, and this is the base product. It works great across all those venues. We then improved upon that to have a second group of products called MICROSALT Premium. And what we did was we targeted the French fry market in what's called the BOH, back of the house use in restaurants, hotels, healthcare market, and it works for anything coming out of a fryer. French fry.
Yeah, just wanted to add as a kind of context in terms of our sales. So the MICROSALT based product is something that we've been ramping since 2024, and the annual sales volume is growing. Now, MICROSALT Premium was introduced in January of 2025. We're already seeing strong interest, and one of the top international fast food brands is in final consideration for launch later this year. We'll talk a little bit more about the commercial pipeline later on too, but just wanted to throw that into the context of these two product lines.
Thanks, Conrad. And yeah, it's real important to realize how the French fry and the restaurant business in general, we'll refer to that as the QSR, the quick serve restaurant business is for us. So we have two significant things happening at the same time. We have the larger industrial customers running, production equipment 24/7, and we have the food service part of the business that addresses the French fries, the restaurant business, the healthcare business, and the prepackaged single serve packs. Let me switch slides. We're going to talk a little bit about the bulk here. Basically, the bulk, we've talked about it's a patented technology that delivers the same saltiness, and because of the micronized size of the particles, we also have improved its adhesion. So when you mix it with a liquid slurry or you apply it online in a production capacity, it sticks to where it's going to go. So it's a plus on the production side. One of the biggest things about us is we deliver full flavor without potassium chloride. Potassium chloride was the old school way that food companies used to reduce sodium. However, potassium chloride has its own strong flavor, and that required additional ingredients to cover that flavor up. So you basically killed your chance of having a clean label. We have resolved that friction point as well. So it works just like salt does. Tortilla chips, nuts, crackers, popcorn, energy drinks, bars, cookies, you name it. If there's salt in it, we can apply MICROSALT. And we took that concept and we improved upon it. Now, MICROSALT base still works great, and it's still our #1 seller and will be for years. However, the MICROSALT Premium is a fantastic improvement because it opened up additional markets. We improved its flow capacity by increasing the density. Basically, what we did is we took a number of the existing MICROSALT crystals and we bound them together to make it bigger. So we had larger density, less dustiness, and it looked like regular salt. So if you have a product that, for example, has crackers sometimes have visible salt on the cracker. Well, the manufacturers want that, so we can now deliver that. We have an ability to now work in restaurants where you shake it on French fries, you shake it on your fried fish or whatever comes out of a restaurant. And as Conrad mentioned, it's a significant market expansion for us because now we're basically across the entire food chain. And from just a couple of comments about competitiveness. Here in the slide across the bottom, you see, well, there are pictures of the major salt excess sodium tools in the market today. You know, different brands out there in the market. And you look across the bottom at the ingredients, and other than Morton salt, which is just salt, at 590 milligrams per serving versus MICROSALT at 150, you can see potassium chloride across the bottom. And that's really reflecting on what I mentioned earlier. Everybody has been using potassium chloride because we are the only ones that have this patented process to take regular salt and make it taste the same at least half the sodium. And another thing to mention about competition at this point is that when customers go through the reformulation to lower the sodium, as a result of their commitment to health or as a result of the ever-growing regulation pressure to lower sodium, no matter where you are, it's very difficult, if not impossible, for them to go backwards. So what that means in a real-world business sense for us is that when we get a large-scale food manufacturer to convert to MICROSALT, they're going to become customers for years. They're not going to reformulate back to higher sodium. We're going to continue to work with them and to reformulate more and more and more items in their brand portfolio. So it's great news for us. And really, we've already produced our system. We've already created our systems so that we can scale production, and that there's no reason why anybody in the world can't turn to MICROSALT and say, "Hey, I need X amount," and we can say, "Great, it's not a problem." Part of the genius of MICROSALT is its simplicity. From a food industry standpoint, here are the major categories that MICROSALT applies to. And as you can see, some of these are really big. The bolded green ones are ones that we're already doing business in. We're already receiving recurring purchase orders. The light green is the brand new one that Conrad referred to as the premium, that we are very confident that within the next 3 or 4 months, we will have a major commitment. The food industry is extremely large. And as you can see, it all works together. Once you start working in French fries, for example, they're going to want you in their cheese products. They're going to want you in the front of the restaurant for their take-home bags. The snack category, the major manufacturers, they're not going to want to have 1 or 2 or 3 items be low sodium. They're going to want all of their items to be low sodium. So it's a big snowball rolling downhill for us, and we're just now getting going. Bear with me here. We're switching slides. The multiple addressing market is what we've been talking about for a little bit. They're big numbers, but to give you just a picture of scale, 95% of the WHO geographies aren't going to make their low sodium initiatives. They're not even going to be close. So as time goes by and as these regulations stiffen, more and more companies are forced to lower their sodium. Now, we don't wait for that. We're much more proactive than that, but we're first in line. We're helping these companies craft their way to low sodium products with the same flavor. Everybody knows no one buys food that tastes bad, and we know that, and we can deliver the same taste before the salt reduction as after the salt reduction. And almost 21 million people a year die from cardiovascular disease. It's a huge issue across the globe. We have regulatory pressures in the UK, Canada, EU, US, LATAM, and LATAM is specifically Mexico. The Mexican template is very widely replicated, and it's specifically in the UK. The Asian Pacific corridor is just now beginning aggressive sodium reduction initiatives. So the market for us and MICROSALT is extremely large and really has no boundaries at all. In this next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Conrad.
All right, thanks, Rick. Yeah, I think the overarching headline of this session really was 2024 results. We're happy, obviously, to give the background and the technology and the product detail to new investors on the call. But it's worth talking a little bit about 2024, 2025, our financial results, as it helps put things in context. Obviously, there's obviously a lot of aspects that you would look when evaluating a company between product, supply chain, team. But if there's one headline I want everybody to get out of this is that in 2024, and specifically in late 2024, that's important, in Q4 2024, we established regular and repeating revenues with one of the world's largest leading food and beverage companies across multiple countries. It's not just one country, it's not just Mexico, but it's also now US, Canada, and also an international seasoning and flavor supplier. This helped us in Q1 of 2025, where our buck sales, B2B sales to be specific, exceeded the totality of 2024 sales. As I said, it was really the Q4 of 2024 when that B2B, call it buck sales ramp up, started to occur. It has continued well into Q1 2025, and we expect it to continue for the rest of 2025 and going into 2026, obviously, with projected revenues around 300% of 2024. What's important to note as we evaluate 2024, 2025 is also the product sales mix, right? So our 2024 sales and related gross margins really were concentrated on the B2C sales that are lower margin, have lower economics. In Q4 and Q1 of 2025 right now, that sales mix got flipped on its head with the B2B volume, the call it buck ingredient volume, being much larger part of our sales mix. And we expect it to continue, obviously, as this is our preferred business model. Why? Because it has better gross margins. We're targeting around 35 to 40% gross margins. In fact, that's what we were actually billing some of the largest customers already. One important distinction is, as I mentioned before, the Q4 and Q1 ramp up we've been discussing is based on MICROSALT based product, which is for snack food market. So chips, popcorn, all different kind of more dry topical applications. And this is really where that projection on 2025 comes in place. In January of this year, as I mentioned, we launched additional product, which is really a separate addressable market, which is the quick service restaurant and fast foods, right? So we're obviously targeting some of the largest international fast food chains. One of them, as Rick mentioned, is already in final consideration for the launch later this year. We feel very good about it. We have not really included in those sales projections this year, but we hope this would be a nice upside for us, obviously. So we're growing our sales while maintaining a pretty lean structure, I would say. The team is still less than 10 people. We're also hoping to continue to improve our gross margin just based on that B2B focus that I mentioned. But also in 2024, we've had a number of one-off costs. Obviously, IPO costs was one of them. A lot of them went into for our income statement, for our P&L, over $1 million. We've also incurred a non-recurring R&D expenses related to the MICROSALT Premium work. So in 2024, other than getting ready for the launch in Q4 of the food and beverage company products, we also worked on the R&D on Premium, right? So that was launched in January. We no longer have that, call it overhang, although it's obviously it was a good investment. So we expect our R&D to be a little bit lower this year as well. At the same time, our operating cash flows are expected to increase. They're already increasing, obviously, as we're getting the benefit of the bulk sales increasing. So overall, it's across pretty much any financial statement line item, the things are trending in the right direction, and we're very happy about it. 2025 obviously is going to be better than 2024, and we just expect the trajectory simply to continue in 2026. Rick, back to you.
Thank you, Conrad. And I'd like to add that Conrad's spot on all things he's saying, that, and as we grow and as our volume grows, so do our economies of scale. Our components cost less because we're buying more. There are less accessorial fees to us from our third-party manufacturers. We're cleaning the machines less. We're saving significant amount of money. So it's all good. The more we sell, the more we make. And that's a great business model to be in. I'm going to switch the screen here. I just want to give you a little bit. Oh, they did it already. Okay. I want to just talk quickly about supply chain. We could. Our current capacity through contract manufacturers is 5,454 metric tons. And that gives us plenty of room to grow. That's about $21 million US dollars in sales. Everything is food safety certified, non-GMO, verified kosher. You don't sell the companies that we sell as customers without being completely vetted. Everything is checked. Everything is double checked. Our shelf life for MICROSALT is 60 months. Typically in the food business, shelf life is a huge problem because it creates supply chain issues. We do not have those. With a 5-year shelf life, we don't have any of those kind of problems. We have redundancy in production, and we have redundancy with our vendors. That means if something happens, we can go to somebody else and get the exact same product made, or we can get the exact same product components from somebody else. Our major third-party manufacturing party that we use is a multinational company on its own. They have over 30 facilities worldwide and are very capable of growing with us if we elected to bring them with us. And I'm not going to say there's no additional CapEx required for worldwide scalability, but it's very, very little. Our technology sits on industry standard equipment. So we don't have to have customized machinery made. I can go to Central Europe and buy the equipment. I can go to Japan and buy the equipment. I can go to Australia and buy the equipment. So it's a very doable business model. The picture you see here, I don't want you to think that these are, just copy and paste. These are real pictures. This is our warehouse in Mexico that we use to deliver to that large customer in Mexico City. You can see the products, how it's bagged, how it's palletized, how it's inspected. So this is a real world thing. This is not, not something we're just talking about. It's happening as we speak. And to kind of wrap all this up, we have a significant competitive advantage. We have patented technology that no one else can replicate. And once we get a converted customer, then they're going to be our customer for a long, long time. And we're talking to the biggest customers in the food business. So these are blue chip customers with significant resources. So they're great customers to have long-term. We have significant demand, delivering significant health benefits. And, for example, just talk about Canada for a minute. Canada pays much of their health bills for their population. $1 of investment in low sodium returns $12 to their economy. So they're paying attention. It's a great concept for them. We have very limited risk profile in our capacity. We know how to get this stuff made. We know where to get it made, and we have been getting it made. So it's not like we're inventing the wheel on our own behalf. We have dynamic development potential. Markets continue to get bigger for us. As Conrad mentioned about the premium has opened up an entire new world for us. We haven't even spoken about other non-food applications that may apply to Microsoft in the future. So our growth trajectory is almost unlimited. It's a product that truly is timed right. The world needs low sodium. The world knows it needs low sodium. And we're the people with the technology to help the food companies get there. And we haven't talked much about the team, but I do want to say a few words. The management team here is outstanding. They're all experienced people. They're all food people. They know how to get this job done. They understand what it takes to sell to the companies, the size companies that we're talking to. We like the small guy. Don't get me wrong. It's the small guy that wants to buy a little bit of MICROSALT for his small little store, a small little lineup. Fantastic. But we're after the big guys because we want to change the food supply. I'll end my pitch with the way I do when I talk to our customers. And this is true. I have a 16-year-old son, and my goal for him is that when he's 50, he doesn't have high blood pressure because of the food he's eating. And that's what we're doing. We're changing every single item in every single grocery store to be healthier. And with that, Conrad, I am going to bail out, and it's all up to you.
Before you jump in there, Conrad, let me just give you a couple of moments, as I can see you've had a number of questions from investors. So thank you to you both for your presentation. Thank you to everybody for your engagement this afternoon. If you want to, just please continue just to submit your questions, just using that Q&A tab on the right-hand corner of the screen. But while Conrad and Rick just take a moment or two to review your questions submitted already, I'd just like to remind you a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the Q&A, will be accessible via your Investor Meet Company dashboard. Conrad, you've had a number of questions, as you can see. I'll hand over to you, if I may. If you could just read out the questions and give a response where it's appropriate to do so, I'll pick up from you at the end.
Sure, absolutely, Rick. And don't get too excited because I'm going to return the ball in your court. There's a number of questions. Some of them will probably merge. One question from Peter was, let's start with the kind of more logistical questions, then we'll move on to the customer and the margins. But question from Peter M was, are there any material dependency in your supply chain, like single source suppliers, raw material pricing? And Rick, before I give it back to you, I think we've kind of addressed that question by just saying we're the off-the-shelf equipment and nature of the dry spraying facilities it makes it such that it's essentially easily replicable off the shelf in other countries. So merging that with other question, which asked about location of our contract manufacturers, which is in Minnesota in the US right now, the main one. But we have relationship with others, Rick, if you want to talk about it.
Yes, and Conrad's correct. And Peter, it's a good question, but we do have redundancy across all of our components, even down to the bag supplier. Our secondary production facility, which is in use, we keep them both going. We want them both in the game, is in New Jersey. So we have our main facility in Minnesota and our secondary facility in New Jersey, but they are both producing for us so that we always have them ready when we really need them. And that includes all the required food safety certifications that are in place.
All right, thanks, Rick. Yeah, and we're obviously, we've done the research and have relationships with potential suppliers in the UK and Europe as well. So we know how to scale it. Right now, Rick mentioned, I think what we have available in terms of the annual capacity is around $20 million, which takes us in sales, which takes us into 2026. Beyond 2026, there is always a level of sales where we could build our own facility and just stack the equipment vertically with certain volume commitment, which would also help us increase our margins. And the margin question was there, actually, I think we answered it, but what are our targeted gross margins on this? They're around 35 to 40% right now. This is our target. And there is a possibility to add a few percentage points once we have our own facility down in the future, just because the cleaning costs could be better controlled, and obviously you eliminate the vendor's margin. But we feel right now they're good enough, enabling us to scale quick at good margins and get to break-even points fairly quick. All right, there's a question from Sid. It's more technical, also more general, I guess. Other than new product formulation, what is really the main step to get a sale in terms of large bulk orders and with international companies? Rick, that's for you.
Well, there's a couple things that are going on. We have a very active outreach program by our marketing department to make sure that the large food manufacturing companies, wherever they are in the world, know about MICROSALT. We spend a great deal of effort and time going to regional and international food shows and trade organizations to talk about MICROSALT and to make sure that the large food manufacturers know who we are. And even though we may not be in their country, they know that they can reach out. Our salespeople, one of our sales is a 5-language guy. We have our local representative in the UK. She speaks 3 languages. We can talk salt across the globe. And so we are really ready to grow with them. Now, one thing that you have to remember is that you don't just sell these large food companies on one of their items. These large food companies have multiple brands. They have multiple flavors under their brand heading. So when you sell one thing, you want to sell them all. So it's a never-ending cycle of opportunity for us. It's just it's really fascinating for me. Being in the food business my whole life, I have never seen anything line up like it's lining up for MICROSALT.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Garnet.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a free-flowing conversation right now as we go through the Q&A. But there was a question on, are you working with one customer on the number of geographies and products? The answer is no. I mean, yes, we're working with them, and the reason we have seen in Q4 and Q1 the scale up was the scale up we've experienced was obviously growing within that organization, but at the same time we are adding new customers. So one of them was the international seasoning and flavor supplier. We started receiving orders from them as well, and then later this year, as we mentioned with MICROSALT Premium, we have received a very, very good reception from one of the top fast food companies for the French fries, and then other products thereafter. So the answer is yes. It's more than that. Call it customer ABC. We've been talking a bit, although with them alone, this could make its own business. But we're obviously we're diversifying our customer base, and we're focusing obviously on B2B box sales because the simplicity is the key. I mean, it's the key in terms of the product, but scalability of supply chain and anything else. And it's also the business that has better margins than CPG or consumer or B2C products.
If I could just give you one example of that. One of the latest trends in the food industry, it's been building for a few years, is plant-based proteins, alternative meats. And we just spent 2 days with several of the largest manufacturers of the plant-based protein industry. And would be a new channel for us. But as those guys develop new products, we're there for them. So then when the plant-based proteins actually hit the market, in a scalable fashion, they'll be made with MICROSALT from the beginning, not having to reformulate. So there's a lot of different things going on in addition to the relationship we have now with these larger manufacturers.
Yeah. And then we have a question from William, who's asking, MICROSALT for home is very powdery. Are you going to look at changing this to become more crystal-like? And that's a perfect question for Rick, but it's a good question because it shows the versatility of the product and the team. So the powdery, the MICROSALT-based product, call it, right? The smallest one is the one that's perfect for incorporation into slurry mix, into snacks, crisps, stuff that we're working with that large food and beverage company, right? Because you just put it in the production line, it has very good adhesion, and the texture of it doesn't matter, and you can get millions of kilos of orders. And then there is a different market segment where that matters, right? Like the French fry or other examples that Rick mentioned, like crackers. So we just said, okay, well, let's do that too, right? That's the R&D investment we've made into 2024 exactly for that reason. So we're suddenly around all these different markets, which is good for us, obviously. So it's a little bit more crystal-like, right? It has increased density. Rick, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, Conrad's spot on. The premium product works much better for home use. I will say, as a matter of business, that 70% of the excess sodium consumed across the world comes from food outside the home. Now, it's important for us to have MICROSALT become a well-recognized brand, but the way to solve the excess sodium is through the food people buy outside the house. So when we created MICROSALT Premium, we knew that at some point we're going to replace the at-home product with the premium. We just haven't got there yet, but we will.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. Oh, there's a question on obviously timing of being able to disclose some of the names. I mean, it should be this year. We're working on this, and it's kind of related to the question that was answered and asked before. Other than the big international food and beverage company, do we have other customers? The answer is yes. It's just that one started the earliest, right? So we started working with them, in 2024, 2023, really. And it led us up to that second half of 2024 and start of the scale up, right? And adding more lines as we go into 2025 and we expect going. But, just on the timeline, obviously, we have other customers and potential for announcements. They're just, they came after the blue chip company we've discussed. We do expect, at some point to be able to name them later this year, at least one this year. Let me see. Rick, there was a question earlier on the, patent, what it really covers, without really disclosing, obviously, anything operationally sensitive. You just want to talk about what really in the process and kind of key parameters that main patent covers?
Sure. Even though we use traditional spray drying equipment, how you use it is what's covered by our patent. There are a number of different components that create MICROSALT: heat, temperature, timing, pressure, and specific nozzle sizes used in various parts of the machinery. Those are all patented for us because there's a lot of moving parts in there, and I'm not a food scientist per se, and so I tend to step over some of the science involved in creating MICROSALT. But it's a very clean product, but it does have a considerable amount of know-how to make it happen. And then we have a second layer of patents that sits on top of that to create MICROSALT Premium, because you can't create premium without MICROSALT base. So we have a double protection for premium because that process is a standalone patent by itself.
Yeah, that's right. And it really, without going into too much technical detail, but it really covers kind of the parameters or specific settings that you would need in a factory to make MICROSALT. So it's not like you can just take it and go. certain levels of pressure, water temperature, humidity, and settings. So it's really like a process patent, right? And we've most of the patents we have coverage well into 2030s. So some of them on premium going into early 2040s. So that's obviously good time to to make headway and continue build out our first mover advantage. And competition wise, I mean, Eric mentioned that before, but we've been working with this company for 2 years now, and not once any competitor came along as an alternative. So we feel very good. We're already in a number of products, and we'll just continue across the board. As I'm scanning other questions, there's a question from Cedric whether any customers are asking to do exclusive deals for certain geographies.
We do get that request, and as it stands today, we have not granted any of those. We welcome any customer, and if a particular customer wants to move quicker than their competitors, then we're very happy to accommodate that. And that just by itself, by nature of things, will give them a first mover advantage. We have not granted any exclusivity to anyone as of yet.
Yeah, I don't think to be honest, will happen anytime soon. And I mean, we just because of the versatility and the interest already from a number of customers, it just does not make sense. And there was a question from CB in terms of what is really how long the sales pipeline on a specific customer takes place. In the snack food, the MICROSALT based product used to be around 12 to 18 months. We've made some process improvements that cut it more towards a year. That's for MICROSALT base, but for example with MICROSALT Premium it's actually shorter, because you're talking about not necessarily having to reformulate a bunch of products and work for a good chunk of the year on that. If you talk about French fries, right, there's no additional formulas there, so that can happen fairly quickly, and it's much shorter than a year. So the answer is it depends.
If I can just add to that while Conrad looks, we provide food technology to the food processing companies. It is food, so they have their own processes that they have to go through. They may come out of our initial sales meeting all loving MICROSALT and saying we're going to do it. It still might take them a year because of all the certifications they have to obtain, all the testing that they're legally required to do. So it's a Conrad's right. We've been able to shorten this thing up, but we're all consumers at the end, and we don't want customers using uncertified ingredients. Now we know we're not uncertified, but the processes have to be there to protect the public.
Yeah, there's a question, Eric, from Ben asking about whether we are engaged into any sort of lobbying with the regulators, and I want to say, the short answer is no, because because this stuff is kind of happening organically. Let me give you an example. Even with the change in the administration here in the U.S., that's historically been anti-regulatory, I guess. They still released FDA. Released guidance or recommendations for front of the package labels about for all food products, and they would have to disclose whether a level of sodium, sugar, or fat is either low, medium, or high based on the thresholds. So suddenly they gave us this additional sales tool that's pushing other companies that maybe previously weren't thinking about it, but now they're saying, okay, well, by 2028, by 2029, I'll have to address that. Otherwise, it's going to say I'm high in sodium, and so that means they have to start working on it soon. And so because obviously that takes a little bit of time. So that stuff is happening organically, and the same with the NGO and pressure in the UK, for example, and in other countries. Rick, if you want to add anything.
No, Conrad's correct on that. We're a small company. We don't have the resources or the personnel to start lobbying Washington, D.C. or any other government agency. We just bring our message to the consumers, and we bring our message to the companies that make food. We bring our message in the U.S. to the school districts that in turn put pressure on the food manufacturers. So that's how we're doing it. Conrad's right. The regulatory environment, no matter where you are, is coming to us on its own.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let me just yeah, there was a question from Justin. On one of these big customers that we have, right? Like, have they reviewed your manufacturing and supply chain facilities? Do you foresee in your small size as being an obstacle to getting more orders from these global companies?
The first part is yes. We had a 3-day inspection by one of the world's largest food manufacturers. They walked through the plant. They sat and they looked at all the specifications. They watched how the product was loaded on trucks. They did the whole thing. Again, we're completely vetted by these larger companies. They have done that with both manufacturing locations. So that our capacity, our ability to produce MICROSALT really won't be a challenge for us.
Yeah. Mark, I think that's all the questions that we wanted to take.
Conrad, that's great. Thank you very much indeed for guiding us through that. And of course, we can make any further questions available should they come through. Rick and Conrad, I know investor feedback will be particularly important to you both. I will shortly redirect the investors on today's call to give you their thoughts and their expectations. But Rick, before doing so, if I may, just come back to you just for a couple of closing comments, and then I'll send investors to give you their feedback.
Okay. Well, listen, I just want to thank everybody for being on the call. True to our vision, we're looking to lower cardiovascular disease across the globe by extending our technology to produce low sodium salt in whatever form we create. That's our vision. That's what's ringing true with the customers. And we really hope that you guys can jump on board with us. This is a long-term thing. We're gonna be in business for a very long time because the customers can't go backwards. Once they go low sodium, they're all in. So we're very excited about not only where we are today and where we're going to be in 2026, but where we're going to be in 2029 and 2030. The salt market is huge, and we're really happy to be here with you guys. And thank you very much for your time.
That's great. Rick, Conrad, thank you very much indeed for updating investors this afternoon. If I could please ask investors not to close this session, as we'll now automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the company can better understand your views and expectations. On behalf of the management team of MICROSALT PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good afternoon to you all.